Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to our webinar. We're going to give everyone just a minute to get settled in and join the meeting. But we're really thrilled to have you here today for our incredibly special 12 months of leadership with Scott Bieler, where we'll be digging into lessons on servant leadership specifically. Now, I'll give you just one more minute to get settled in and just give you a little bit of the lay of land of what you can expect today. So before I introduce our incredible guest, I just want to give you a reminder of where we are and how we're going to be working with our Zoom webinar service today. So today's session, 12 Months of Leadership, is sponsored by the Center for Leadership and Organizational Effectiveness. You will see that Maddie from the CLOE team will be in the chat if you have any technical questions, any Q&As, and she'll be helping us monitor and work through that. Additionally, if you have questions for Scott, we will save time to be able to pull them up. You will see on the bottom of your Zoom screen that there's a really nice Q&A box. You can enter your questions for Scott there, and I will be bringing them up, and we'll be able to have Scott facilitate and address them directly. Now, without further ado, I am so thrilled and excited to be introducing Scott, as well as the incredible Annette, who will be here joining us and be keeping us all on time and moving forward. But Scott was just really incredible event on Friday at the University at Buffalo, where he accepted the award for the 2025 Buffalo Niagara Executive of the Year at the University at Buffalo. And a little bit more on Scott's background before we dive into our conversation. Scott Bieler began his career with the West Herr Automotive Group in 1975 as a sales consultant and was promoted to sales management in 1980. In 1981, when he was promoted to general manager, the group had only one dealership, West Herr Ford of Hamburg. In 1983, he became a partner in the Ford dealership and was named president in 97 and has been a majority owner since 2000. Under his leadership, West Herr has grown to the largest automotive employer group in New York State with 40 locations, 27 franchises, and over 3,000 employees. West Herr has received the Business First Buffalo's Best Place to Work in Western New York award, and you will not be surprised by that after you get to hear from Scott today, for over 21 consecutive years. He's a dedicated philanthropist. Scott and his wife Kathleen established the Scott Bieler Family Foundation, supporting Roswell Park, Mercy Hospital, Best Self, Damon University, Villa Maria College, Niagara University, and many more. And he serves on the board of Roswell Park Alliance Foundation, Invest Buffalo Niagara, and Damon University, and is a member of the Greater Buffalo Racial Equity Roundtable. Scott, good afternoon, and thank you for being here.
Good afternoon, Celine. So honored to be on this broadcast. So thank you, and thank you to everyone at UB for the great afternoon we had on Friday and receiving the Executive of the Year award. It was a very special day for me and one I'll never forget, and very meaningful in my life. So thank you.
It was an incredible afternoon, and if you were there, you were able to hear the incredible stories that Scott told, but we're also going to get to hear them today and got to meet some people on his staff who introduced him. So to get us started today, Scott, we're talking about servant leadership. So can you give us, what does servant leadership really mean to you, and how has it shaped your leadership approach?
Well, I think your mission as a leader, if you have that mentality to be a servant leader, is your focus has to be first and foremost on your employees before anything else in your role as a leader. That has to be your focus. So whether that be training, coaching, mentoring, enrolling them in outside leadership courses such as Dale Carnegie, or maybe even a course in management at UB, but clearly showing people a path to a career. That's, to me, an existing leader's job is to find how many people he or she can grow to develop to be the next leaders of our company, and make it clear how they get there. Our current homegrown, as we call them, management team is 71% homegrown, 29% we've hired from somewhere else, and that's exactly where I want it. I want homegrown people to be the majority of our leadership team, but I still want that outside perspective that comes when you hire somebody from somewhere else, maybe the same industry, maybe not. So, but I think sometimes companies don't make it clear enough, to the person who wants to grow the company, like, what is my next run and how do I get there? And what are the steps I have to take so that next run will come to me? And so we work real hard on career paths. I think a servant leader has to understand that personal life affects working life more than I've ever seen in my 50 years with West Herr. So if you really are a servant leader, then you're going to help that employee in all facets of their life, not just their working life. And years and years and years ago, there used to be kind of a mentality, I think this is many years ago, where you kind of left your personal issues at the door. Well, we don't believe in that. I can't do that. If a loved one of mine was very ill right now and I'm coming to work today, I can't leave it at the door. So why would I ask them to leave it at the door? It's impossible. So we try very hard to make sure that our managers have that mentality to not just support them in their work role, but also if there's a personal issue going on, that they do the same in their personal, helping them in their personal life. So empathy is a big characteristic I look for in leaders. So with all the talent in the world, if I don't believe that person has natural empathy, I probably wouldn't put them in a leadership role, because I think that's a key ingredient today to be a good leader, is truly caring for others. And I don't think you can train that or teach it. I think it's in that person when they come to you. So seeking people that have that kind of mentality is what we really look for. So that means a servant leader has to do a lot of interviewing. Because if you're going to be a servant leader, it only works if the people you're hiring are those kind of people that are highly engaged, committed, somewhat driven, if you will, and also a person of empathy. So if there's an opening here in our company, I don't ever want to interview one or two people. I want to hear they interviewed 5 or 6 people, so that we can seek out that person that fits the core values of our company and has that empathy. We're big on highly engaged people. We seek people that are highly engaged, and we measure that every year. You mentioned our Best Place to Work award, 21 years in Buffalo here, and now we just won last week in Rochester for the 5th time. That's the most important award we get. We get a lot from manufacturers, and I get personal awards like Friday, but the one that's the most important in my life is the people like working here and feel committed to working here. If we have that, I know whatever challenges come our way to our company, we will be strong and we'll be a leader because of that characteristic. So quickly, just give you some stats. I read a lot about engagement in the workforce, and the sources I read right now say more than one all have about the same numbers, that 25% of America's workforce is now considered highly engaged. So what does that mean? Well, that means they'll stay extra on an evening night when a customer needs something. They'll just, okay, I got to stay an hour late tonight to help. I'm in. That means you call them on a Sunday and say, we had a flood in the parts department. We need all hands on deck. I'm on my way. That means you get out of the car in the morning to see a loose pop can in the parking lot. They go over and pick it up because they care about how the place looks. Or they're walking up to the front door, they see a lady struggling on a real windy day, they race up in front of her, pull the door open, so she doesn't have to struggle getting in the building. So that's commitment of, they train, they study, they learn their tasks, they're highly committed. Well, that every source I read says 25% of America's workforce is in that category. 40% are what they call moderately engaged, which will do their job and they'll do it well, but that's what they want to do. They don't want any extra commitment. That's 40% of America. The 30% are what they say are barely engaged, which are trying to go through the day with, doing about the least that they need to do to get through the day. And then there's 5% that are disengaged. So this latest survey, which we do every year to test our own engagement in our company, the numbers were 77% highly engaged, 17% moderately engaged, 3.5% barely engaged, and 1.5% disengaged. So that's the difference in our company. When people say they walk into one of our showrooms and they feel a difference, that's what they don't even know why it feels different, but that's why it feels different. The workforce in that facility is a highly engaged workforce led by a servant leader.
And what I would say, Scott, is that doesn't happen by accident, right? You're training and you're living in that and you're modeling that in your leaders. So could you share a story where you saw servant leadership in action, either a story from you or someone else?
Well, I believe in going to wakes for an employee's family member. So when I show up, I always feel proud because I pull into the driveway and I can see all the cars that I can recognize that are people that work for us. I walk into the funeral home and there's like 20 people from our company there. And I'm only there for a little while, so who knows how many showed up in total, but you know, the old saying, just show up. The leaders got to show up. You get invited to a wedding, you go. You get invited to someone's new home opening that works for you, they're so proud of their new home, you show up, you show up with your bottle of wine, if you don't stay the whole night, but you show up. I mean, showing up for people is, someone here has a baby, we have probably, believe it or not, about 5 babies born that are to West Herr employees a week. I send a card to everyone, dressed to their names, we give them a little West Herr onesie that we send. So to me, those are multiple examples, but those are examples of servant leadership, showing up on a Monday morning and knowing someone's going through a really bad divorce and just going over and having a cup of coffee with them and saying, how'd the weekend go? And you know, let them just talk to you for a few minutes, you know, let them feel a little bit better. They got to vent a little bit, maybe that are a little bit better that day and how they function because somebody just listened. Then walking over to another person and say, I know your dad's sick, how's he doing? Well, he's not doing too well. The doctor says maybe 2 weeks. And then that manager immediately says, okay, well, you're on a new schedule right now. You leave every day at 1, give us a list of what you need done that you're gonna do the rest of the day. The rest of the team will get it done. You go spend those 2 weeks with your father because you're those weeks, 2 weeks back. You got 20 more years with us, you got 2 weeks with him. That's servant leadership. Sometimes it's helping them with a new software program that they just can't get their arms around. Everybody loves it, but they can't seem to get around it. So you spend time all one-on-one with them that day just to make sure they've got it. So those are some examples, I guess.
So Scott, can you talk a little bit about how you maintain that strong company culture? Because all of these conversations and decisions that you just referenced are so powerful, right? And it exists in the ecosystem of what you're building at West Herr. So how do you maintain that company culture while scaling and building such a large organization?
You gotta be visible. There's that old management saying, manage by walking around. That's how we live here. I mean, I try to be in the dealerships a lot. If a dealership has an accomplishment, we're celebrating it. Saturdays are my day to visit stores. I visit 6 or 7 or 8 every Saturday, and it's a different mix every week. So the employees get a chance to talk to me. I get a chance to snoop around a little bit. I get a chance to talk to customers and get a direct feedback as they're taking delivery of cars, how everything went. Just being available, I guess, being accessible. We have a new employee orientation that we have 3 times a year for anybody hired in the company, and we talk about our culture and our values and our history, and then I finish it up for the last 45 minutes. And what I'm hoping to get out of that is these people now with 3,000 employees, it's hard for them to know me like they did when we were smaller, but I still want them to get a read on me. I want them to see if they walk out of an opinion of me. What I find is refreshingly that when I walk into a store, then after that person sat through that, they walk up and they call me Scott. They don't call me Mr. Bieler. First of all, they walk up. They might not even walk up to you if they didn't have that introduction to you. They might say I'm better off not to go up to it. So they walk up, they're comfortable. They call me by my first name. If we got something to comment on, they do. So, but that takes a lot of commitment. And some people don't really want to lead that way, but in this company, if you're gonna be a leader in this company, that's how you do it. The snows on all the cars out there, and we get buried in snow, and everybody's gotta go out and broom off the cars. Well, the leaders are out there too.
Right.
They're right out there, like I said, they're doing the same thing. Don't ask people to do what you won't do, and say, well, don't say I did it 15 years ago. You still gotta do it today. The customer complaint comes in, you sit down and say, look, I can help you with this. Let's call this customer back together. What do you get out of that? The customer's impressed, the manager's calling. The person who's new learns, listens, learns. It's a coaching moment. I look at every email we get from a customer every day. People say, why would you still do that? And I say, because 85–90% of them are raving about somebody, so why don't I want to see that every day?
Right.
Then I make sure I send something to the customer for saying that. I send a message to the employee for how they were complimented. The few that are not happy about something, sometimes it's minor, that they didn't get their second set of keys or something. Sometimes it's a little more, if it's a little more enough. I call them myself. So I think you just gotta be in the game, and the minute you start to remove yourself from the business that you've created, I think you take a step backwards. There's a very successful man in Buffalo who owns Tried Distributing, Gene Bukovic, and he told me his father, who started the business, that they started this little business at a little tavern, that they started distributing beer, and now they're the biggest in New York State. And he said his father always said to him, never take the apron off, which is a way of saying, which is a way of saying, never get out of the front line. You gotta stay to some degree in the front line. You lose your edge as a leader if you remove yourself too much from the front line.
And people see that and we model what our leaders do. So I want to zoom out a bit, and we have some other leaders, alumni, students on the line, and I know they have interest in how you scaled and grew West Herr. So could we talk about what are the key decisions that helped grow West Herr into Western New York's largest automotive group?
Well, when we started, we had this huge following in the Fords. When I started, I should say, this huge following in the Ford store, selling by far the most Fords in Western New York by like 3 times. But there's 2.7 cars in the driveway in Erie County if it's an owned resident. And I knew we weren't selling those other 2 cars because they were a different brand many times, not always, but most of the time there was different brands. So I said, if we're gonna get this kind of acceptance from the community and really make an impact, we gotta have other brands so they never have to leave us for any brand they want. So I took a different path than some auto groups do, because a lot of auto groups just buy where there's a good opportunity and the price of the dealership is fair or whatever, they'll just go wherever it is. Most groups our size are spread over 3 to 5 states. There's 18,000 dealers in the country, 18,300 right now. And I never wanted to do that. I didn't think we could remain what we are as a company and have the culture we have if we were all spread out. So I wanted concentration for the customer's benefit, so they can buy all the brands they want from us in the same area, and then for the culture that we built. So there's 250 dealerships between Buffalo and Rochester, so I just kept banging on the doors of everybody that was in Buffalo and Rochester, or the dealership I was interested in, and just let them know when the time is right, we'd be interested in meeting with you. And that was the mission of trying to stay concentrated. And we have 28 stores in Buffalo, so we kind of just ran out of opportunities in Buffalo. So that's when I started working in Rochester. When we started that in 2010, with 2 stores we bought in 2010. Now we're up to 11. So we're getting it there too. It's taken a while. We've been in Buffalo now for 75 years, but that was my way. I'm not saying that's everybody's way. I mean, some people would say you'd be better off to be more spread out in different markets and so forth, but that's not the way I wanted to do it. I thought we all brought more benefit to the customer being concentrated, more career paths for the employee, and again, the culture that we built, we couldn't have done spread out like that.
All of this ties back to your commitment to community and your commitment to impact and philanthropy. So can you talk about what drives that impact and what drives that commitment to community impact and philanthropy?
Well, I say this and I mean it, and it sounds like something nice to say, but it's the truth. It's the real truth. It's an obligation in my mind. It's an obligation because the support that this community has given our company, when you consider how much a car costs, and the loyalty they've given us is unprecedented. And so I really feel it's an obligation. If a community supports you that much, to that degree, where every car in the family is being bought from your company, you better say thank you more than just saying thank you. So we better show them, by them supporting us, good things are happening in the community they live that benefit them. So every year, I want to be able to point and say, because of that, because of West Herr and the people that support us, that equipment got bought for that hospital, or that classroom area got remodeled in that college, or whatever it is we did. Every year we got to have accomplishments of that nature, and then keep on going with our regular support of Roswell and the many that we support on a regular basis. To me, it's become a real obligation, and I think it's given our employees something special, because they feel they're part of a greater good. There's more than just selling and servicing cars, and they're gonna work here with us. They feel good about that, and I've seen more and more young people. That's really important. The young people that wherever they work, whatever their organization is, that they're making a difference beyond just what their function is. And I think we work real hard at that. And then every Saturday, I was telling you, I make these rounds. I mean, people come up to me and say, you know the reason I bought this car today? Look at what you do in the community. We didn't really do it for that reason. We really didn't. We did it because of past business, but it actually supports your business in the future because people feel good about that. So what I do on a Saturday when I visit the stores, the last thing I do is I try to find two sets of customers picking up cars, and I go over and I say hi, and they give them my card, and sometimes I buy them dinner, and I say, folks, from your family, how many cars do you think you bought from West Herr? They never know the number, they gotta sit there and count them up, and I'm including their kids when I say this, and about 30% of the time, it's over 20 cars from one
Yep.
family. And I just never get used to that. I just marvel at that kind of support. So if you get that kind of loyalty from the community, you better be doing something meaningful back.
And Scott, I just want to just share something that came in through the chat. So this is from Jessica Smith. And she said, my brother Nate Weld is a sales manager at West
Oh,
Herr.
yeah. He's a
And
good
he
kid.
I love it. See, that is community coming to life here. And she said, he cannot say enough about how much he loves working at West Herr, and especially for you, Scott. I've personally seen how you practice what you preach with your employees. And I'm so grateful that we got to learn from you today. Thank you for everything you do, not just for my family, but for all of the employees in the community. You are very much appreciated.
Wow, thank you for that. Thank you.
It just is a testament to Scott, the impact that you make in the community. And thank you, Jessica, for sharing that. So a follow-up question there, and I also want to remind we have a few more questions for Scott, but please feel free to drop any questions that you have for him in the Q&A. What qualities do you believe are essential for today's emerging leaders?
I'm repeating myself a little bit, but empathy. I mentioned empathy. You got to believe. You can't find all this out in an interview sometimes, but you can certainly find it out over time when someone works for you, and if you're going to make them a leader or not, is character. What kind of character do they have? Is there passion? Is there integrity? In moments when they can make the decision one or the other, what decision do they make? And it better be with integrity. Integrity is everything with me. You can make a lot of mistakes in this company and you'll work a long, long time. You make one bad decision with integrity and we're probably not going to be together too long. Because for 75 years, you can't make every transaction and every car repair perfect. We're servicing 600,000 cars a year now. So what we can do is do it with honesty, integrity, and if we do make a mistake, admit it and then get it fixed as fast as possible. So again, mistakes can be plentiful and we use them as coaching sessions and we just get better with it. Hopefully it happens once, it never happens again, but a decision of just integrity that isn't the way it should be, then it's a different ballgame. So integrity is everything. They got to have what I call a fastball. They got to have that drive, that fastball. And you can call that grit, you can call that determination, you can call that perseverance, you can call it a lot of different things, but that's got to be there. Humility is big with me. We do it all together here, so if someone kind of takes too much credit for what they're doing, and when it's a team effort, which it always is. I can't think of a better example. Someone who's, to me, is an example of humility, which happens to also represent us, is Josh Allen. I've never studied.
Oh, yeah.
And he's very, very humble. And that's important. Long range vision, not looking about what's going to happen in the next 2 months, but what's going to happen over the next 5 years. Long range vision I look for. I look for someone who not only wants to mentor, but makes a commitment to themselves when they've gotten to a certain level of leadership, that they're helping the next one in line, and they really almost declare to themselves, okay, this is the one behind me, and I'm going to help her get to where I got, and I'm going to be determined to do that. So I think if you've had success in life, if you're not trying to help the next person in line behind you have that same success, to me, that's a disappointment if I don't see that. They got to be consistent in the way they live their personal life, the way they live their business life. I mean, we can't control what people do in their personal life, but you'd like to see that they're somewhat consistent, and the same thing they're doing in front of us here, they're kind of doing in their own communities, in their own church and the little league or wherever they are, that they're kind of living a similar life. And And selflessness, I guess selflessness is something I seek. I don't want a leader that's, like I said a minute ago, taking all the credit.
And so we have a question, Scott. So first we have a shout out. So Sanitra shout out. She said, 3 generations of my family have purchased from West Herr. Wonderful. And Christina Moore is an amazing salesperson. So shout out to you, Christina. Thank you. And then we have a question from Professor Patience. She said, thank you so much for exemplifying servant leadership in the manner in which you do. My question is, what deliberate decisions did you have to make in order to meet the varying culture needs of your clients as you lead? So what kind of deliberate decisions did you make to really be the leader that you are today?
Transparent pricing, transparent quotes on repairs. Never quote anything that's not absolutely necessary. If there's something that might be necessary in 6 months on a car repair, make sure you're very clear. This isn't necessary now. This is not necessary now. This is something that's coming. Don't try to sell a repair today that's not necessary now. So just honest, transparent price quoting. During the COVID period, 70% of the dealers in the United States charged over MSRP for a car because they could. I didn't. And I made a point to send a letter to every manufacturer to say, I'm not going to do that. I wanted to get on record, we weren't gonna do that, because I didn't want to be lumped in with the other 70-some% that were doing that, because we weren't.
Right.
And to me, that just wasn't right. It was an example of greed that just went too far. So so those are a couple examples that come to mind. But it's the simple things, I don't really want a manager that tells his assistant or her assistant, tell them they're not in when they are in. You just told a little fib. Well, the person that you're telling that to knows you just did that. So,
Mhm.
so it's not always the big things. It's sometimes it's a littlest thing. Just say, look, I'm tied up right now. I'm busy. What's her number? I'll call her back. As soon as I'm done with this, I'll call her back. Don't say you're not in. I mean, even a simple thing like that. Don't say I think so. I tell our salespeople, the best phrase you can use in presenting to customers when they ask you a question and you're not sure about it, the best thing you can say is, I don't know, but I know how to find out. So
Yep.
give me 4 minutes. I'll be back here with the answer and I'll know what's right. Don't tell somebody they want to know if this truck will tow 3,500 pounds and look at the ceiling and say, oh yeah, I think it will. Well, no, if you don't know, say I don't know. And go over and find out and come back 5 minutes later and say, oh, we're good. It tows 3,900 pounds. But don't guess. The one thing I tried to do in this company forever is I never talk about what we might do. I don't like saying what we might do. I like saying this is what we're doing. So we might be contemplating a change in software, or a change in a policy, or a change in acquiring a store, whatever it might be. I like to say it when it's a certainty. I like certainty. I don't like to say it when it's, now we're thinking about doing this, we're thinking about doing this, we're looking at this. Because half the people that hear that think you're gonna do it. And
Right.
maybe you're not. So don't say it until this is what's happening. And then communicate when there's stress. The COVID period was a very stressful time for our employees, and we were forced by the state to furlough 1,100 of our sales teams. We could keep the service business open, that was considered required, but the sales wasn't, so we had to just furlough people. Well, we talked to them like 3-4 times a week. We wanted them to know, you're gonna be good, we're gonna figure this out, and there'll be a time you're coming back. And we did a pretty good job of, they were selling, which they were allowed to do, selling cars from their homes. And
Right.
we made that work, I think, as good as anybody did. But even that, I mean, we had to furlough these people, which we had never done in our entire existence. Hardest decision I've ever had to make in 50 years, to furlough people that have been part of what grew you, what you are. You couldn't pay anybody anything, because if you did, then you were affecting their other benefits they would be receiving from the state, the federal government. You didn't want to mess with that and affect them in any way where you harmed them receiving that money. So that we discovered we could lend them money. Those 1,100 people all got lent. We lent about $2.2 million in total. And when we told them, when you come back, we're going to forgive the loan. And they were only off 5.5 weeks, as it turns out. But when we did this, we didn't know how long they'd be off, but they were off 5.5 weeks. When they came back, we forgave the loan.
Wow.
So, to me, that was a way to show that we really do value you. You can say it in speeches, but that showed them, wow, they do value me as a person, and my family, et cetera, et cetera.
And Scott, we talked about this question before, but can you talk a little bit about how you see tariffs? And this comes in from Alex. So how do you see tariffs impacting the local automotive dealership business?
Well, in the short term, we're busier than we've ever been. We sold more cars in March in 1 month than we ever sold ever. Because we have the most in New York State of pre-tariff cars on the ground right now. So in the short term, we're gonna be busy. We were busy in March, we're gonna be very busy in April, and we'll be busy in May. But then, by then, we'll be out of pre-tariff cars, or pretty close. We got about 2 months supply. And I'm hoping, but I have no insight to this, because we have 27 brands, as I said, and every brand's got their own kind of opinion on what's gonna happen, and they're all kind of hoping maybe next week there'll be more clarity to how these are really gonna work, so. I'm hoping that negotiations entail, and that they can kind of get these lowered and not affect the cost of a car. If they don't, it will affect the cost of a car. Now, some of the manufacturers may make up for that with greater incentives on the car, so the customer's transaction price doesn't change as much as the tariff would make it change, but none of that is clear yet. And no one is saying really anything yet. But I can tell you right now that pre-tariff cars are a certainty you're not gonna pay a tariff, and most of them still have an incentive on them on top of that.
Right.
So that's why we're so busy, because people are saying, I'm gonna buy a car in 25. Why would I wait? So there's really no reason to wait. It's not gonna ever get lower than it is right now, so we're grateful for the short-term volume that we're having right now, and hoping things get clear and hopefully worked out so that the price of an average car doesn't go up as much. Some of the brands are gonna average all the tariffs over all their models, some that aren't being tariffed and some that are, so that the total increase per car isn't so much. So there's different strategies that we're hearing, but I know that wasn't a complete answer, but it's because we don't really have all the answers yet.
We don't know what we don't know. So Scott, to wrap us up, can you talk a little bit about and give us some closing advice on what leadership advice would you give to someone who might just be starting out in their career?
Well, I was lucky enough, as you said, I started selling cars when I was 21, and in 3 months. I remember having lunch with my father and said, this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. I thought I would sell cars the rest of my life. I didn't think all this other stuff was gonna happen, but I said, I found something. I don't like to do this. I don't like this. I love this. So for anybody who really wants to get the most joy out of their career, you gotta find an industry that you love to do, not like to do. So I do this, believe this or not, with our own hirees in our first employee orientation. I said, some of you are gonna love this job and some of you aren't. If you don't love it, keep looking. Because life is so much better if you can find something that you love to do. And then the passion just keeps growing. And then you're a better person when you're at home. You're a better person in the community. You're better everywhere when you really love what you're doing. So, and you'll be more successful. And it's not just the industry. You gotta like the particular task you have in that industry. So I get people that wanna work for us, and they say, we've heard good things about your company. What do you wanna do? Well, they don't even know what they wanna do. Well, if they're coming not really even knowing what part of our industry here, entices them, then maybe that's probably not gonna work out. And I don't think I think most people probably don't find something for a whole life that they love to do. I think some are fortunate enough to do that, some aren't, but if you're starting your career and you've given it a year, I'd say, or a year and a half at the most, and it just isn't really, really giving you that feeling, boy, I can't just wait to get there every day, and you're never looking at the clock and when to go home, because you just love what you're doing so much, you don't care what time it is, if you find that in your life, your whole career will be much, much better, so.
Well, thank you, Scott. Thank you for your incredible insight and being willing to be so generous with your time today. And thank you, Annette, for helping us coordinate and get all of this together. Annette is a superstar, so thank you both so much.
Well, thank you. I
Thank
hope
you.
your audience, if you gained one thing from this today, then I'll feel this was worth your time. And I was happy to give my time, but I hope you did get something from this today that made it worthwhile to give us.
And we have
the
other great messages, Scott, so I'll make sure that I get them to Annette to get to you. Some
Okay.
wonderful pieces of gratitude.
Right.
So
Thanks everyone, you be. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. And to wrap us up, please join us for our next session. We have Thinking Patterns with Dr. Marsha King. And especially, we're so excited to share with you our CLOE conference, which is taking place on April 23rd from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Tickets are going fast. So if you'd like to join us for Leadership Now, Innovating for a Sustainable World Conference at the Buffalo Niagara Marriott, make sure you scan this QR code now and join us for this conference. It'll be another incredible day of thought leaders, innovative sessions, and really getting you the information that you need to learn and know for where you're going next. But with that, thank you all so much for joining us. We're so grateful that you were able to be here today. Thank you, Scott and Annette, and thanks for all the leadership you do for our community.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
God
Signing
bless.
off.
God bless.